What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with Kevole, Line viewers. It's Mitch here with Kevole, AC, and Dilly Vanilli. We are here to break down the Chicago Bears, the team that I've been hyping up all offseason as a team to take the next step forward into their future plan of being a monster, not only from the Midway, but in the NFC. So the Bears made quite a few changes this offseason. They obviously brought in a new head coach. So John Fox, the old way is out of there. They've brought in new blood in Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy is a very offensive-minded young coach from the Andy Reid tree. I'm sure AC will love that. Defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is very, very good. Got this defense to a top 10 quality last year. Offensively, they brought in weapons and weapons galore. I mean, Allen Robinson was the top receiver on the board. They snagged him. Taylor Gabriel is also on this team. Trey Burton was probably the top tight end, maybe arguably with Jimmy Graham. Then you have just other weapons that they already had. Jordan Reed, Tariq Cohen. They drafted Anthony Miller. So this offense is extremely talented from what it was last year. I mean, we were talking about this receiving core and this talent on offense being arguably the worst in the NFL. And now they've surrounded their young quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, with a lot of toys to play with. Offensive line is pretty good as well, in my opinion. And they also drafted James Daniels, who will probably play guard on their team, probably right guard. Defensively, Akeem Hicks is a beast, probably their best defensive, for sure their best defensive lineman, but one of the most underrated in the league, in my opinion. They play more of a 3-4 scheme, but obviously every team plays a lot of nickel. Aaron Lynch, they also brought in. I heard he's sort of on the cusp to make the team. I don't really know. Roquan Smith, I think, is going to be a stud from day one in the middle, along with Danny Trevathan. That's going to be one of the best 1-2 linebacker duos in the league. And when they're in nickel, that's going to be very dynamic. Leonard Floyd, I like more than most as a pass rusher. Mukamara and Kyle Fuller and Bryce Callahan are good corners. Kyle Fuller being the star there. Adrian Amos, Eddie Jackson, one of the best safety duos in the NFL. So this team's setting up with a lot of talent from top to bottom. It's just a matter of if they can put it together and if Mitch Trubisky can bring it out on offense. What do you guys think of this team overall? Where is their record? Do you think the potential is going to set in, or do you think they're not quite there yet? Let's start with AC.
I think they're close. The one thing I think the NFC North has going for them is they get to play the NFC East. So, okay, maybe a loss against the Patriots, but those are 3 easy games in the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets, which I do think helps them out. But having to play the Packers twice, the Vikings twice, and I think actually Detroit's the worst team in this division. I would still say, though, that's still a tough matchup. You know what I mean? NFC North game. Like, it's going to be tough for them to get to the point where probably we all want. Because, actually, from Mitch last year, I was kind of against Mitch Trubisky because I didn't think he was going to be very good last year. But watching the team, more so the defense, I really like this young defense, and I really like their safeties in Amos and Jackson. I like Kyle Fuller is good. Even picking up Marcus Cooper, and then getting Roquan Smith. We've talked about how good their linebackers are, and then their offense. I do think they get better. I'm putting them at 8-8, which I do think it would be a win for Chicago Bears fans because I think that's a step in the right direction, and I don't think they're very far off from competing with those top teams. I think they potentially could win a couple more games, maybe sneak in. So I do think the ceiling's there, but just honestly, I have to say 8-8. But I am a fan of what they're trying to do. I'm a fan of the team, and I think in the future, moving forward, they're going to be a fun team to watch. So I have nothing bad to say against the Bears. I want to see Jordan Howard be the running back I think we all want him to be, that we think he can be the top 5 running back in this league. But he's still young, so we'll see what happens. But I like what they're doing, and I say 8-8 this year.
Yeah, I actually like what the Bears did in terms of the offseason. I would say they're one of my favorite off seasons of this past year. You look at what they got in talent. Allen Robinson going to be a huge upgrade from anything they had last year. The biggest thing that to me, I'm not a big fan of Mitch Trubisky, and we'll get into that in a second, but we really couldn't evaluate him what he had in 2017 because he had no receivers. So in terms of getting a guy like Allen Robinson, that's definitely going to help. Kevin White, for the love of God, stay healthy. And Taylor Gabriel, I think, is going to be a good addition just because he's working with Matt Nagy, who he hasn't worked with, but in terms of what Matt Nagy did as the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, always wanted to use certain receivers for like interesting routes, and a guy like Taylor Gabriel is going to use that very well, considering when Kyle Shanahan was his offensive coordinator, they did some pretty good stuff there. Offensive line, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I do like Kyle Long. Trey Burton, great tight end. I think he'll do very well here in the system. Another key piece for Mitchell Trubisky to have. Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen, big running back duo that I like a lot. Defensively, huge fan of Roquan Smith. I actually have him as my defensive rookie of the year this year, coming into prediction time. I think he'll be very, very good. Adrian Amos at the safety position, Kyle Ford at cornerback, Eddie Jackson, very, very good. Leonard Floyd, also very good. Danny Trevathan. So there are some very good things here. And what I said when they got all these acquisitions in free agency, and what I'm putting out here now, is that what the Chicago Bears did the best was that they set a team around Mitchell Trubisky to succeed. They gave him the tools. They said, you don't have receivers, we'll give you the talent for receivers. Your defense is very good. The team looks like they're going to be in better position than they have in the last couple of years. The worst thing going for this Chicago Bears team is that they are in arguably the hardest division in the entire NFL. And that kind of sucks when you're in this situation where you want to rebuild or you want to get better and prove yourself as one of the best teams in the NFL. It's very difficult when you got two teams like the Vikings and the Packers, who the Vikings last year just won the NFC Championship game, and the Packers have had this stigma of being in the playoffs for the last decade. So with the Bears, they might make the playoffs if they were the AFC. In the NFC, I have them at 9-7, which does not make them a wild card team, but they are very close. And for me, what I'm going to be looking for when I watch Bear games is to see what Mitchell Trubisky can do, because they have the team set around him. Let's just see how he can produce and if he can get the stigma away from some people that are not the biggest fans of Mitchell Trubisky. So I have him at 9-7, which is third in their division. But if they sneak in, maybe get a win or two, could be very interesting going forward.
I think Kevole's on the other side.
This is going to sound a little weird, but the Bears kind of remind me a little bit, that much, of how we approached last year with the Philadelphia.
I was just going to say that. Thank you for saying that.
There was a lot of acquisitions that we were like, they feel like this is a team that's coming up. And I feel like that way with the Bears. I feel like there's a lot of really good things. I'm higher on Mitch Trubisky. I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but I think that he got, because of what he was traded for, that trade in San Francisco, I think a lot was expected of this guy that I think had some unfair expectations on him. I think they're slowly going to develop, and I think what's a comfort for him is you got a really good running back tandem in Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen if they can do it. Taylor Gabriel and Allen Robertson are really solid receivers. As Dilly said, if Kevin White can remain healthy, that's great. That defense, there's some good things with it, but there's also Danny Trevathan often takes some really bad penalties at times. So that's a question. I'm a big fan of Kyle Fuller on the right side. I have the Bears at this point at 7-9, and in third place. I actually don't think they're as far back from the Green Bay Packers as you think. I think at this point the Packers are probably better because they have number 12. But I would argue talent for talent, I don't think the Bears are that far behind the Packers, actually.
Well, you could argue that with the Patriots too, but you can't really at the end of the day, because
I would say
if you have number 12, it doesn't matter what your team is. They've proven it time and time that with mediocre teams they can get it done and be.
Well, my question is, what is your record of the Packers? Because you have them.
No, wait.
We'll get to that in a second.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. I'm not spoiling. But I just think that this is a team that is on the rise, and I think is a cup maybe next year. I think we'll be having the conversation that the Chicago Bears are a playoff team. But this year, I think that they're growing, and also I think Matt Nagy was a really good hire. You talk about what Alex Smith was last year. A lot of what Alex Smith was because of Matt Nagy and the creativity in that offense. And I think he's going to bring in that creativity in Chicago. So I have him at 7-9 at this point, but I think a definite team on the rise.
And Andy Reid guys always do well after leaving Andy Reid, most of them.
Yeah, as Kev said, I think a part of the problem with Mitch Trubisky last year was that he was trying to fit in an offense that totally didn't fit what he was about in John Fox's sort of style of play. And now he's sort of playing Matt Nagy's offense that I think very much like Alex Smith is going to fit his style of play, his athleticism. He can move out of the pocket a little bit more, use his throw on the run. So I feel like that's just going to fit him from that standpoint a little bit more. My prediction for the Bears is actually I'm regretting just talking about the Bears and the Eagles from last year, because I actually, like, when we started talking about the Bears right now, I don't know why this ever came up before, but I was like, wow, just thinking about this, I'm thinking about the way I talked about the Eagles last year and how I didn't actually project their record to be what it should have been. So now that I am doing that, I got to say that I got to lean. I originally had them at 8-8 before we started this video. I'm going to go with 9-7 because I'm looking at their schedule and
it's easy.
It's easy. And they have a very talented team. And as long as Trubisky takes a couple steps up, they're going to be a team and maybe even a playoff team.
My only thing is, though, with that Eagles comparison, I thought I thought most of us thought that San Fran's closer to the Eagles last year than the Bears.
But it's the way that they've made acquisitions and adding players, and their defense was already strong previously. And that's the sort of thing that reminds me of and Wentz and Trubisky, where they had bright spots, but they had sort of low spots as well. So it sort of reminds you of them. But they play Arizona, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Miami, the Jets, Buffalo, Detroit twice, Minnesota and Green Bay are both rivals, so they could potentially pick up one win, the Giants, and San Francisco. That's a lot of winnable games.
They play the NFC West and the AFC East. Wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot of winnable. That's like 11 winnable games. So I have the Bears at 9-7. I think that the potential mostly comes to the field, and we see it mostly. But I don't think they're quite there yet in a strong division to say that they're going to make that leap to superstardom in one of the elite teams. But I think it could be coming in the next couple of years, next 2 years or so. So Bears, we think very talented team, bright future ahead, but we just need to see it a little bit more to make it a prediction. So the Bears around 8-8, 9-7, around the playoffs this year in the NFL. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe for more NFL previews. Peace out, guys.